On this edition of Mississippi Roads, we'll see how art has transformative effects on artists themselves, like watercolorist Darryl Anderson in Jackson. His discovery of painting truly changed his life for the better. Or sometimes the transformation is more evident in the artist's materials, whether it's turning trees into beautiful bowls or fashioning regular old concrete into ornamental yard art.
Support for the arts segment of Mississippi Roads comes from the Mississippi Arts Commission, whose mission is to be a catalyst for the arts and creativity in Mississippi. Information available at www.arts.ms.gov.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.
Down Mississippi Road.
Hi, welcome back to Mississippi Roads. I'm your host, Walt Grayson. This week we're coming to you from the Art Garden at the Mississippi Museum of Art in downtown Jackson. Many of you may remember not too long ago when this area was a functional but pretty ugly parking lot. But in 2011, this 1.2 acre area was completely transformed into a public green space that has become a focal point for community creativity, expression, and just plain fun. There are regular events scheduled here, from concerts to pop-up exhibits, from festivals to movie nights. But it's also just a place for people to gather more informally, or just relax in the great outdoors, right here in the middle of the capital city. If you look around, you'll see a number of sculptures and other works of art that are a part of this inspirational outdoor space. And in fact, sculptor Jennifer Torres created the garden's boat sculpture to reinforce the idea that this is a place to get away from the hustle and bustle of our daily routines. Now, the outdoor artwork here is colorful and whimsical. Now, take the children's fountain, for instance. Clearly a warm weather favorite. The mosaic designed by Martha Ferris was based on a Mississippi pond where turtles and frogs and children might gather to cool off on a hot summer afternoon. The alligator bench is close by, keeping a watchful eye over the pond activity. And right next to the splash pad is another boat-themed piece that also serves a practical purpose. A wooden and steel arc-shaped bench made by John Clark that points toward the entrance and represents the journey of exploration within the museum. Many artists, of course, get their inspiration from outdoor spaces. And watercolorist Darryl Anderson of Jackson is no exception. You know, Darryl's course to becoming a successful painter was kind of unusual. And his story illustrates the life-changing power of art.
Darryl's style, very vibrant. That's the main word, vibrant and colorful.
Well, I learned painting. You have to believe in yourself first, before other people believe in you. So you have to take yourself serious. One time I didn't, but no one's going to take you serious unless you take yourself serious.
For Darryl Anderson, the transformation into a serious artist began in an unusual place, within the drab walls of the Hinds County Detention Facility. How he found his way there is a common story. How he found his way out is remarkable.
I kind of prayed one day. I asked the Lord to give me something that I can do to make money, and I didn't have any idea it would be art. That was the first thing from my mind.
Darryl was my switchboard operator at the sheriff's office, and I used to walk by his desk every morning coming into my office. And as I was coming in one morning, I noticed him with a yellow pad and pencil doing sketches. I went back to my office, and I had an old friend of mine had sent me a watercolor set. So I gave it to him. I said, "Here, try this." After a while, I stopped by and looked at him on the switchboard, and he had taken to it like duck to water.
Well, actually, I saw book of Wyatt Waters. A lady I worked with, Miss Pat Glenn, brought a book in of Wyatt Waters, and I saw the bright colors and stuff that he used, and that's what really got me interested in watercolor again. I was doing pencil portraits at the time, even in ink pen, and I started incorporating watercolor into portraits. And I did one for a lady one time of her child, and it turned out good, and she liked it, and she showed it to friends, and it just kind of took off from there.
I was teaching classes, adult enrichment classes, adult ed, at MidSouth, and Malcolm McMillan called me and he said he had someone who was out there and had been painting from a book of mine. And he wanted to know if he could get him in a class with me. And I said, sure. It was a morning class, and a lot of housewives from Belhaven would take the class over there. I didn't know how they would respond to that, but they really, they gathered around him like mother hens and took care of him. And his dad would drop him off, I believe that's what it was, and his dad would pick him up. The passion that he had to do something, when you're given time to do, people figure out ways to pass it. And some are constructive and some are not so constructive. And I think Darryl chose a positive way. A lot of people start off painting, but it's kind of rare to find the people who continue to paint. I tell people in my classes, I take beginners, I just don't take quitters.
I would copy photos when I was young and run and show my dad, look, and it just really was always an interest of mine. My mom was an artist, and later on she became an alcoholic, so she really never pursued it, but I have things that she'd done in high school, and I really love it. It's always in me. My brother was an artist too, but he didn't stick with it, but it's just always been a way out for me. I've tried acrylic and oil, and they're okay. They're good on mistakes. If you make mistakes, you can always cover up. People say with watercolor you can't cover up, but I like it. It's simple to me. I just usually sketch out whatever I'm going to watercolor and pencil first, and then watercolor it, and it just comes natural. I love the medium. I like to paint what I feel. I like to get out in the field and paint, and just hopefully that everyone will like it.
He's a good man. He's I'm really proud of his work and proud of the influence that I had over him. But he's made himself. He's done it himself.
Darryl found his passion in art, and I think for anyone to find your passion and pursue it helps to give your life purpose.
You're an artist, don't give it up, just paint. Whatever you feel, however you feel. Don't worry about what anybody thinks.
Now, while there are many beautiful flowering plants here in the art garden, there's also a community vegetable garden, the Peyton City Farm Learning Garden, organized in 2015. Established in honor of the late Aileen Peyton, football great Walter Payton's mother, and a very talented cook, the garden will serve at least two purposes: as an outdoor classroom where students can learn about healthy eating, sustainability, and culinary arts, and it will also provide fresh produce for the Palette Restaurant here at the museum. The restaurant caters to the downtown Jackson lunch crowd, and whenever they can, they try to whip up a little something special on the menu, made from locally grown ingredients. Dishes like grilled yellow squash panini and satsuma and red ruby beet salad, and the always famous Kool-Aid pickles. Now, it may seem odd that a museum of art is incorporating this community garden as a part of their outreach, but they like to point out that just as visual art is central to Mississippi's culture, so is good old gardening and cooking. And if you've ever had fresh tomatoes straight from a Mississippi garden, you know they're a work of art. Now, there's an artist down in the Mid-County whose focus is food also, in a way. He makes wooden bowls that you can use as serving pieces. Of course, they're nice to look at, too. So let's take a look in the rearview mirror to a story from 2008 and visit Berry Creek Bowls in Liberty, Mississippi, where they take these regular old trees and turn them into gorgeous works of art. These bowls are beautiful works of art that require a lot of hard work, sweat, and patience to complete.
Especially in this time of the year in August, it's a hot and it's hard work. And it's a slow process too, and it just takes a long time. It's a whole lot easier to get a piece of wood on a turning lathe and be in an air-conditioned shop, and a whole lot more comfortable.
We know of a man who makes hand-chopped bowls, and in fact, I have one of his bowls Robbie bought me as a present. And we went to see him one day to purchase a bowl for our son for a wedding present. And long story short, we ended up, Robbie tried making one himself, and we called this friend back and said, we have, bad news. We're going to, let Robbie have a bowl that Daddy made for him instead. And I was thrilled with it. I just thought he did such a good job, even right from the start. It just developed, and he got better, and people started noticing him. And when he retired from school teaching, it just seemed the natural thing to do to try and market them.
I've never cut down a green tree, but most of the cherry that I've chopped is a tree that's been, it's been dead 10 or 15 years, I guess. It stood for a long time, but it finally blew over, and it's just rotting in the woods.
All right, take it to the chopping block. That's gonna be our bowl.
Some of the main woods I chop are cherry and maple and persimmon and sassafras and well, just anything, almost anything that we grow in this part of the country except oak. I don't use any oaks because they split so easy.
All right, what I've got here is a piece of newspaper that's been folded twice, and this is be the fourth of the shape of the bowl. And what I do is open it up, and I've got a mark where each one of the creases were. That gives me the 4 points of my bowl. Line my newspaper, my pattern as such up on my bowl, on my slab, and I generally mark my 4 corners first in case the wind's blowing, so I don't get it lost. And then I trace the outside of my pattern.
But I've noticed that the bowls that are a little different, that perhaps have little imperfections, sell better. People like that one. Oh, look, this one's not quite round. Or look, this one's got a little, dimple in it, or this one's got a little hole. Even the ones with the knot holes. Sometimes the holes go all the way through. They sell great because it's different. It gives it character. It looks handmade, which it, of course, is, but there's no doubt that it's handmade. They don't have to explain to someone they didn't buy it, somewhere off a manufacturer or something.
Okay, this is that adze. This is what I use to chop the bowls with, and it's curved in 2 directions. It's curved this way, and it's also, if I turn it around here, it's curved this way. And that allows me to chop a curved pattern down inside the bowl.
It takes a long time to chop up a tree, a log, with an adze and a hatchet. So I'm still chopping on the first cherry tree I started chopping on, and I've made over 60 bowls out of that one tree.
Once Robbie's chopped out the inside of the bowl, he uses a hatchet to cut away the outside.
So after we get through chopping the bowls inside and out, I take it to the house and touch it up with a grinder just a little bit and number them, measure them and number them and put them in the book. And then they come back down here where they put in plastic bags, and I bag them plastic bags and leave them in plastic for about 2 to 3 months until moisture quits condensing on the inside of the plastic bag. When it gets to the point where they don't condense on the inside of the bag, I pull them out of the plastic and put them in paper.
Once the bowls have completely dried, Robbie sands them and then applies a special type of oil to the outer surface.
I use Danish oil, which is a food-safe oil. It's a finishing oil which soaks into the wood, it hardens and protects the wood.
I got an application for the Mississippi Craftsmen's Guild for him and did the paperwork, sent in photos of his work, and he was accepted on the first try, which we later found out was a nice thing, a good thing.
I don't come up with neat designs. That's my wife's job. I do the work, and she does the computer and the sales and the packaging and all that kind of stuff.
Designing bowls to look like Mississippi and Louisiana is one of Karen's ideas that have recently become very popular with their customers. Even though these hand-chopped bowls are beautiful works of art, people are encouraged to use them regularly.
If I need to, I just wipe it out with a soapy sponge, and I don't just immerse it in water because that's not good for anything wood, but rinse it off, dry it, and occasionally re-oil it with some olive oil just on a paper towel or something. You don't have to re-oil it every time you use it, but if you use it 5 times a week, you might need to oil it once a week. So a lot of that depends on how often you use it. But we like to think of, we want the bowls to become like, your heirloom of tomorrow. And, and that's what gives it character, is the fact that you've used it. A few years back, we would have never dreamed we would have been doing this. But it's just, it's been great and something that's fun to do in our retirement and turned into a nice business and a great way to meet people.
One of the people who was inspiration for this section of the garden right behind me here was landscape architect Ed Blake. Ed passed away in 2010, just before the garden was completed. The Terrace Garden, dedicated to him, offers a wide variety of colorful plants and a smaller refuge within the larger space. You never know what you'll find in bloom here, like black-eyed Susans and garden phlox. You'll probably even see some bees, lizards, and birds hanging out in this area. Now, while the art garden boasts some outdoor sculptures by notable Mississippi artists, most of us embrace more garden variety yard art. And you probably have at least one piece of ornamental sculpture in your yard. I know I do. Did you ever wonder where it came from? Now, I'm not talking about the yard and garden place where you bought it. I'm talking about, did you ever wonder where they make that stuff? Well, if you were to drive up into the north part of Mississippi, you may just run into the largest ornamental yard sculpture manufacturer in the Mid-South.
When people drive by, or they say we're driving up down the highway and we can't find you, we'll say, well, when you see the big elephant with the big A on it, you found it.
That's how you know you've arrived at MidSouth Ornamental. It's a jungle of concrete just south of the Tennessee border in a small town in Benton County, Mississippi, called, of all things, Michigan City. Everywhere you look, there are animals of all shapes and sizes. And that's not all.
We have 10 different rabbits. We have several different lions.
Giraffe, a huge pig, rooster, the big bass fish. We have a lot of gargoyles.
Certain fountains and statues.
We have a hand that is holding a man and woman in it.
Caterpillar benches, butterfly benches, cowboys, soldiers, cannons, frog, dog, rabbit, chicken, farm animal, anything that you're looking for, we are probably going to have one of.
Kurt and Emily Sanders were college sweethearts. After school, they got married, settled out in Sladen, Mississippi, and had 2 children. Opportunity came knocking in 2011.
Kurt, my husband, was a home builder, and when the economy got really bad, he just had started looking for something else to do.
I knew the previous owners. I grew up with their kids. They had done well in this business, and they were retiring, and I knew this business was for sale. We figured we'd give it a shot.
And it was a gamble that paid off. 4 years later, the Sanders have built Mid-South into a thriving business, amassing thousands of concrete pieces spread over a 10-acre lot.
There's not anybody within a 500-mile radius like this business. And there may be a few mom and pop places here and there, but nothing quite this size.
And while Mid-South is a beacon to retail customers passing by, the Sanders say cultivating wholesale clients is critical to the success of the business.
You need wholesale customers to be able to carry the kind of inventory that we like to carry and the amount of different items to choose from. You know, you have to sell a lot of each item to make it worthwhile to owning a mold on that item, because molds are very expensive. If I can't sell 10 of something a year, it's not hardly worth having a mold on. You need wholesale customers to do that.
The process of creating a piece of concrete art begins with a mold, one that's either purchased or made on site.
It could take up to 2 months, depending on how large the piece is. You have to make sure you have a good master of the mold. Make sure the one that you're making doesn't have any little nicks and bumps or creases, because if the one that you make has a crease in it, then everyone's going to have that crease. They typically paint on 20 to 30 coats of rubber, and they'll paint on a coat every day. Then after, they'll put it in the heat room, and it'll have to sit in there for a few days to cure really well. After the rubber has cured, then we have a fiberglass machine, and he will make the fiberglass parts to it. So it takes several weeks to make one mold.
Next comes mixing, pouring, and then pulling the concrete.
As long as we're feeding it sand and gravel, we can pour all day. Concrete is always curing. In the fiberglass molds, you can leave them in there, it doesn't hurt them to stay in, but when you pour a rubber mold, you don't need to leave it in more than a couple of 3 days most of the time, or it could damage the mold. A lot of molds you can pull every day. They'll be cured enough to pull them the next day. Some of them needs more cure time. It just depends on the weather, depends on the mold.
Once the concrete is mixed, poured, set, pulled, and dried, the piece can take on an entirely different look.
When you buy a piece of concrete, you can either get it in the natural plain gray concrete, or you can get it painted or stained. We have 9 or 10 different colors that you can choose from, and you just tell us what color you like, and they will paint it or stain it to suit you.
We have a lot of people send us pictures. I want a dog done to look like this one, and we'll give Humberto and Socorro the picture, and they'll detail it to look like the picture.
The business is open year-round, but spring fever is what drives most customers to Mid-South, and they come from all over.
May is typically when everybody is getting ready to get their yards done. We have landscapers coming out from everywhere. We just have retail customers coming in from everywhere. Just everybody is ready to get out in their yard.
I have customers from all over. We get them from Alabama and Arkansas and Tennessee. I had some stop in the other day. They were from Washington. They just come from all over. They were just driving through on the trip and decided to stop.
Every day we have somebody that stops and say, I have driven by for 10 years and always wanted to stop, and today's the day I decided to stop.
Well, I don't think anything is stopping the Sanders. If sheer volume is a measure of success, their proof is in the concrete. The company uses up to 27 tons of concrete every month during the busy season. And Kurt and Emily estimate they have up to 10,000 pieces of concrete in inventory at any given time. So the next time you visit the Mississippi Museum of Art, take a little time to walk around outside first and visit the gorgeous art gardens. And if you've got any questions about anything you've seen on the show, contact us at mpbonline.org/Mississippi Roads, or like our Facebook page, Mississippi Public Broadcasting. And we're going to leave you with some sights and sounds of what you'll see and hear around the Mississippi Museum of Art in downtown Jackson. Till next time, I'm Walt Grayson. I'll be seeing you on Mississippi Roads.
Mississippi Roads is made possible in part by the generous support of viewers like you. Thank you.